minute ago you talked about having to divorce your accountant for a while there because you couldn't cope with the risk. I know you've also been married and divorced. So tell me tell me about that journey, that experience, how you've come out of it more whole, more wise, more happy. And I know you're in another relationship now, which is great.
Yes.
So, you know, there's a lot of women who find themselves in marriages and they're miserable and they stay in them a long time. You know, how did you find your courage and what did you learn?
I learnt a lot because, I mean, that was nearly 10 years ago that I divorced. And
how long were you married? Like,
we were together about 3 years.
Yeah.
But the thing is, you know, it was perfect, really. In terms of, I mean, it was hideous, but at the same time perfect, if that makes sense.
Hideous, yeah.
Because until that point, I really had no semblance of who I was at all. Like, I was living life according to...
Why did you get married?
Oh God. Well, I mean, we got engaged in like within 10 days of meeting. Like I was crazy and spontaneous, and I was drinking and I was wild and I was just loose, you know.
It isn't actually that hard to imagine you being crazy, spontaneous and wild.
I'm still like that. I just don't drink anymore, which is really good. But and I just, you know, everything was just, I don't know, it was just out there, you know, everything was big and out there, and I still live like that, but in a much more conscious way. And so, you know, we got married and it was crazy and it was fun, but we had nothing in common, and, you know, and I was still drinking, and we really had nothing in common. He arrived with an esky, he left with an esky, and it was all fine, but, I mean, it wasn't fine, it was tough, you know, it was horrible, and, you know,
You like to party. He was fun.
Yeah, but it was then that it was really the turning point in my life, you know, because I kind of thought, I went on a really downward spiral after that and thought, what the hell am I doing with my life? You know, like I'm kind of drinking myself into oblivion. You know, it was shallow and it was nothing, and I didn't know who I was. And so that was the journey for me 10 years ago of starting to really immerse myself in a lot of, you know, spiritual courses and personal development all over the world, from, you know, the middle of a jungle in a raw food vegan commune in the middle of Costa Rica to, like, I've all sorts of trekking across the Western Ghats in India to going and sitting in a path of love for 7 days in the Hunter Valley, like crawling through sweat lodges, like you name it, I've pretty much done it now, and so I'm pretty well processed. But and it was great because I got a semblance of who I was, you know, and so hated it, horrible, almost didn't make it through in a way, like I was pretty suicidal and all sorts of things, and depressed and you name it, and so it's funny, like so many people say to me now, you're always so happy and fun and funny, and I'm like, I made a freaking conscious decision, you know, back then, that if I was going to live, which I chose, then I'm going to freaking live a great life. Yeah. So it's not by accident, you know. Yeah. So if people look at me and go, wow, you're so successful, you've got all this, it's been a bloody big journey. Yeah. Well, and I think that's the thing, there's no quick fix or pill, you know, you've got to put in the work.
Yeah, and you know, you can't have the breakthrough without the breakdown.
Yeah, you know, I had to hit rock bottom, you know. Yeah. It's not a fun place to be. I don't want to go back there again. Yeah. But, you know, now I have the tools and do the work to kind of keep myself away from there.
If you met, and I'm sure occasionally you do run into people who find themselves in a place where they feel totally lost. They're in self-destruction mode, whether it's drinking or eating or whatever it is. Yeah. And they just don't know where they're going, and they're really falling into despair. What in the hell is my life about? Yeah. Do I even want to live it?
Yes.
What do you say to them?
Look, I think everyone's journey is different, you know, and I think people have to find their own way, and you can't tell anyone, because the thing is, for me, you know, if anyone had have told me give up drinking, I would have thrown a drink in their face, probably, really. And, you know, you have to find the courage yourself. Oh, just complete rock bottom, you know. It was really to the point of, you know, it just wasn't pretty. And I just made a conscious decision to power forward, and I got the help, you know, that I needed. And I've seen it time and time again, and it's unfortunate. As much as you want to, or I want to jump in and help people have to help themselves. Yeah. That is the only way. And it's not until they're ready, and it's just how far do they have to go down before they hit that point of, I've got to like turn my life around. Yeah, look,
Totally.
it's such a big conversation, and I think, you know, society, there are a lot of issues, and it's really unfortunate.
I think a key thing, I mean, you talked about getting help. I remember I had bulimia through my teens, and I was in my late, probably about 19, 20, and I would just, it was in this terrible cycle of eating and binging and throwing up, and it was just pervasive. Like, I was just totally caught in it.
Wow.
And I remember one time, and I was studying for something. I mean, I was at uni. I was highly functional, but people didn't know. So there's a lot of shame around it.
Yeah.
And I remember just sitting in front of a mirror, just tears in my eyes. I'd just gone and thrown up a packet of mid-sliced biscuits that I'd just finished on. Looking in this mirror with tears in my eyes, going, I cannot stand the rest of my life knowing that I'm in this cycle. Like, it was just continual.
Yeah.
And it was just, I remember being so clear at that moment, I've got to get help because I keep trying to break it and I can't.
Yeah.
And it was a real moment of like despair at the future being more of the same.
Yeah.
And absolute humility.
Yeah.
Like, I just cannot solve this with the tools that I've got. I need something else to help me turn this sinking ship around.
Yeah.
And I don't know, something as that place of absolute humility and despair at the future being more of the same.
Yeah.
It was like, all right, and for me, I went and got help and started a long journey of recovery. But, you know, whichever it is for you, going off to, you know, all the things that you did, you know, it'd be nice to just turn it around like that. But it's a journey.
It is a journey. Thanks for sharing that. Yeah, I think it's it's definitely a journey, and I think it's just having the courage and also the realization that sometimes we have, you know, there is a certain powerlessness about trying to do it on our own, and that it's okay to get help, you know, and surround ourselves. And I think that feeling of living with, you know, guilt, fear, shame, remorse, which I lived with for years, and then, you know, and then realizing that there are other people in that boat, and that there are tools that can help us to turn that around. And I think that's a really brave thing to do, you know, and it's very easy for me to sit here and talk about it now, 10 years on, because it's like, it's so not a part of my life. It's a part of my story, but it doesn't define me. And I'm very comfortable with who I am now, so I can talk about it. And you know, it's harder for people when they're in it, I think, to have that courage and to be able to see beyond the current situation.
Yeah.